Okay, welcome everyone. Sorry for the late start. We were hostage to waiting for the 10th for Mariv. We're going to try that shouldn't happen too often. Okay, we are dedicated by Baruch Ian, who is also not here tonight. So we're dedicated by Baruch Ian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Esther Bas Gittel, Avram Ben Shmuel HaKayin, by Yaakov Yemansky, with Akar Satev to the Rav and the Zoom family, and Nachas from children and grandchildren, A.B. Spry, Nachas from children and grandchildren, Ed Salah from London, and Joshua Rosenberg, a virtual Talmud, also by Shalom Fogel, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Zev Ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef Ben Zion Ben Yaakov Zev. Then the Neshama should have an aliyah. We welcome in over here Shimon Klein, Menachem Yemansky, Mo Kushner, Shelley Zeitlin, Saba, Eddie Chazan, Dr. Guy, Aaron Sway, Dr. Black, Rabbi Kranz, Yisrael Fisher, Berish Gesserman, Nachman Chapler, Moshe Lehman, Ilya Shutman, Naftali Jablin, Yitzi Muller, Abe Arbach, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Michal Chavin. Here in Shul we have Gedalia Engel, Chaim Kramer, Rich Lenner, Rabbi Avram Zepkowitz, and Ruvain Shanet. And we are holding with the interesting discussion. Remember that Yonasan ben Uziel was given an inheritance. It wasn't an inheritance, a bequest, because the children were not good. So they gave it instead to Yonasan ben Uziel. Of course, one of the best things to do with your money is to give it for Abbatz's Torah. Shammai was not pleased with this, but Yonasan ben Uziel, who sold a third, gave a third to Hekdesh, and gave a third back to the children, said to Shammai, if you could stop me for selling it or dedicating it to Hekdesh, then you could stop me from giving it to the children. But since you can't do any of the above, so therefore you can't stop me from giving it to the children either. So Shammai said, Hitiach alai Ben Uziel. Ben Uziel has pushed me away with his argument. Hitiach alai Ben Uziel. Now, why was Shammai displeased that Yonasan ben Uziel gave back a portion to the children? May Kara my suffer. What did he initially think? So he compared it to the case of Beis Charon. The comparison is a very loose comparison. But he compared it to the case of Beis Charon. What was the case of Beis Charon? The Tanan, Ma'aseh Beis Charon, there was an incident at Beis Charon, Be'echad, where a man was marrying off his son. Be'echad she'ya aviv mudei menu hana. And the chassan's father was prohibited by a vow to benefit his father, the Zayda of the Chassan. So the father of the Chassan who was making the wedding was looking for a strategy that he should be able to invite his father to the wedding. So what he did was, he told his friend, who happened to be Shelley, the courtyard where the wedding takes place and the feast, I'm giving it to you as a gift. But you should know, I'm not giving it to you as a gift to do whatever you want. And it's only yours, that my father could come and eat by the banquet, because he wouldn't be able to eat if it's mine. So I'm giving it to you that it shouldn't be mine. Amalai. So Shelley said, because Shelley didn't want to be a partner to what seemed to be just a ploy, not a real, sincere gift. Amalai im shalihain, if it's mine, harihain mukdashin l'shamayim, then I'm sanctifying it to heaven. Amalai, so the father said, Lo nasati lach es shali shetakdishem l'shamayim, I didn't give it to you to sanctify it to heaven. Amalai, so Shelley said, yeah, I know what you wanted to do. Lo nasati li es shelcha, you only gave it to me, only as a loophole that you should be able to be freilich with your father, who is forbidden to benefit from you, and make up. You'll be able to eat and drink, and you'll make up with one another. And the sin will be, Shelley said, he used it in a second person, not to say bad on himself, and the sin will be on my head, because I agreed to such a sham arrangement. So, Amru Chacham, the Chacham said, indeed, Kol matana she'ena she'mikdisha mikudeshes, any gift that is not a pure gift, that if you want to dedicate it, you have the license to dedicate it, eina matana. It's not a good gift. So from the fact that we see by Beis Charain that the Chachamim frowned at making such an arrangement, so Beis Shammai inferred that since we know that the ratzon of the father was that to circumvent his children, it would be wrong for him to do different than the ratzon of the father and give it back to the children. Of course, it's not comparable, because over there, the father did not say that I don't want it to go to the children. The father did not put any strings at all. And he proved it by being makdish a third of it, and there's nothing wrong with that. And since he's able to do whatever he wants with it, therefore he certainly has the license to give it back to the children as well. Now, once we brought up this particularly special individual known as Yonasan ben Uziel, so the Gemara tells us about him. Tan Rabbanan, Shmeinim Talmidim Hayuloi LeHillel HaZaken. Hillel HaZaken had 80 disciples. Shloishim Mehem, 30 of them, Ru'uyim Shetishra Aleim Shkina K'Moshe Rabbeinu. 30 of them were worthy that the Shekhinah should be upon them like on Moshe Rabbeinu, except that their generation was not worthy of it. We find such an idea that Ezra was worthy to re-enter Eretz Yisrael with miracles like by Moshe Rabbeinu, but his generation wasn't worthy of it. So here also, 30 of them were worthy to have Ashras Ashchina like Moshe Rabbeinu, but their generation wasn't worthy of it. Shloish mehem ru'iyim, 30 of them were fit. Shetamid lehem chama ki Yeshu ben-Nun. They were worthy that they could stop the sun, like in the days of Yeshua ben Nun, Shemesh b'givon daim. But their generation was worthy of that. So that's a total of 60. Esrim Beinanim, 20 of them were intermediate. In other words, they weren't on such high levels. Gadol Shebekulan, the greatest of all of them, was Yonasan ben Uziel. Katan Shebekulan, the smallest of them, was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Now, by the way, before we even go any further, the greatness of the person does not necessarily dictate that they will make the most accomplishments. I mean, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was a leader of Klal Yisrael. You know, it's like it says that Yishai, the father of David, and Kilav, the son of David, never sinned. Yet it's about David HaMelech that we learn 1,000 times in Tanakh. So Ramila says it's not necessarily the greatest that accomplishes the most. And to the contrary, if you're going to be involved a lot in the tzibur, then ultimately you're going to mess up. If you're not so involved in the tzibur, you're going to less likely mess up, right? But the Rebbeinu Shalom wants us to be involved in the tzibur. Now, who is the smallest one? Amr Alav al Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Shaloi hiniach, he did not leave Mikra, any psukim, Mishnah, any Mishnayos, Gemara, any Gemara, halachas, laws, agadas, homiletics, diktuke Torah. These are the extrapolations that we learn from the extra gam, the limitations of ach, the extra letters, the diktuke seifrim. Diktuke seifrim are all of the gezeiros and takonos of the Chachamim as a siyag l'Torah. The kalin v'chamorin, all the arguments of a kal v'chaimer, a fortiori, gezeiros shavas, and the different connections of words. It says over here kicha, it says over there kicha. Utkufais, the cycle, the intricate calculations of the cycle of the sun and the moon. Gematrios, all of the ramazim of gematria. Umishalim kaifs, umishalois kaifsim, umishalosh shualin. Now we have to know that in those days they used as their parables the kaives, the fuller, they called them. Kaives, I think that's a Sansino word. They called kaives the fuller. I mean, that means a laundryman. The laundryman was a colorful man because he had to do with a lot of people. And they did a lot of mishalim with the laundryman and the mishalim of the fox. They used the fox as a symbol of a parable. It was a clever animal and a crafty animal. Sicha shedim, the speech of the demons, which were necessary for making kameos, amulets. V'sichas dikalim, here this is that he knew a lot about botany and what is it called? Agronomics? No, agronomics. Reuven, I remember asking you this the last time I learned this. Isn't agronomy the study of the land? It is, yeah.
I'll buy it.
Yeah, okay. Well, agriculture is not the study of it. An agronomist studies agriculture. But anyway, it is a benefit to say something when nobody knows any better. But and V'sichas Malachei Hashares, and the language of the angels. Again, this was needed to communicate with them. V'davar gadol v'davar katan, big things and small things. Davar gadol is the esoteric of the Maaseh Merkava, of the divine chariot. V'davar katan, havayis the Abaya v'Rabba, the arguments of Abaya Rabba. L'kayim asher nemar, this vast, complete knowledge is to uphold that which is said, Lahanchil ohavei yesh, I will transmit to those that love me substance. This yesh, of course, is in the last Mishnah in Shas, in Uksin, where yesh is the same letters as Shai, the Shai Olamas, the 310 worlds. Va'utzoiseyem amale, I will fill their treasure of knowledge. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, his treasure of knowledge was filled. So the Gemara says, the katan shebekulam came, if the smallest amongst them is such, gadol shebekulan alachas kama v'kama. The greatest of them, Yonis ben Uziel, you could imagine. Amru alav al Yonis ben Uziel, it was said about Yonis ben Uziel, that b'shasha yoshev v'oisik b'tayra, that when he sat and learned Torah, kol oif shepareach alav, any bird that flew over him, nisraf, was consumed by the fire of his learning. Now, those that learn with me often know that I had a big kasha, because it says that on top of the roof of the Beis Hamikdash, there was something called the Kalya Oirev. It was spikes that a raven shouldn't land on the roof and relieve itself. So there was spikes to fend away the ravens. Now, the question is, the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kodashim had more holiness than Yonasan ben Uziel. And if a bird got burnt over his head, then how could a bird relieve itself on top of the Kodesh Kodashim? That's a kasha that I asked. So I answered that the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't want things to be done miraculously. He wants things to be done b'derech hateva. So therefore, he put up the Kali Orev, which is the derech hateva, which is the natural way. But then, subsequently, I answered something else. And that is, because also, by the way, the Rebbeinu Shalom could have made the Beis Hamikdash a no-fly zone. I mean, if during the Siyam HaShas they could make MetLife Stadium a no-fly zone, which Homeland Terror does, and doesn't allow any plane to fly over, so the Rebbeinu Shalom could make a no-fly zone over the Beis Hamikdash, but the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to do things more b'derech hateva. But then I suggested something else, and that is, do you think that the best thing is that a bird should be burnt? Especially since the Torah is called Rachmana Omar. The merciful one says, Yonasan ben Uziel had such a kedusha that the bird got burnt. But that's not the highest level. The highest level is that the bird should go over and not get burnt. Now, I saw in the Kabbalistic farm, which is more in Rich's field, but, you know, no.
I don't know enough Torah, dude.
No, I was Daniel Lekafschus. I figured you were occupied in Kabbalistic things. That's why. But anyway, and that's what happens. I have Talmidim that they're so enwrapped in Kabbalah that they get delayed. You know, so I figured you were immersed in the divine chariot. At 2 a.m, Rich will give a Kabbalah share if you're up. Zeri Shimshon is a start. Call 1-800-RICH Kabbalah. Looking for sponsors. Yeah, that's. No, you don't wake up his wife. Wake up his wife. If you ring the doorbell, watch out for a fire. But anyway, speaking about sponsors, we do not yet have a sponsor for the Chumash. It's amazing. I just want to say that in the Kabbalistic farm, they say that when it says an oif flew over the head of Yonasan ben Uziel was burnt, it means the oif represents any foreign thoughts that would disturb him from his learning. And the fire and the passion and the intensity of his learning protected him from any such untoward thoughts. Now,
do we have people like that? Do we have people I remember very sure of this generation?
No.
I mean, comparable to them.
I mean, we have Lamed Vav Tzadikim, so I would know them. You know what Rabbi Beryl Wein says? There are 36 Tzadikim in every generation. If you think you're one of them, then you're not. But anyway, I see the Rabbi Kranz is thinking. But anyway, so now, switching back to halacha. Ha'omer zebni neman. If a father says, this is my son, he's believed. If he says, Ze achi, this is my brother, einoi neman. But if he says, let's say there are 5 brothers, and he introduces a person as the 6th brother, so then he gets a portion, and he alone will split his portion with that new brother. The other brothers don't have to believe he's a brother. But since he says it on himself that he's my brother, he will have to divide his portion with that brother. Mace, if that new brother dies, then the other brothers don't get a portion because they didn't accept him as a brother. Then then the half a portion that he took from the brother that identifies him goes back exclusively to the brother that identified him. If, let's say, property falls to him from a different place, in other words, this newly identified brother, newly identified brother inherits, then Yorshu Echav Imai. The other brothers will inherit together with the brother that said that he's a brother. Now, why that should be, we'll have to discuss in the Gemara. Why should the other brothers be entitled? They didn't accept him as a brother, so we'll talk about it in the Gemara. Not tonight, tomorrow night. So now the Gemara says, Zeh b'ni neman. If he says, this is my son, he's believed. Now, he's believed for what? Lamai hilchasa. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel liyarshay, that he is an heir. Uliftar es ishtay min hayibam, and that if he died, then his wife is exempt from yibam because before he died, he identified this as a son, and there's no yibam if there's a son. Liyarshay, to inherit him, shita. Rashbam says, why not? He has a migu to be believed because he could have given him a gift. So why shouldn't he be believed to say he's my son? So the Gemara says, Liftar es ishtay min yibam itzrichalei. It's needed to exempt the wife from yibam. So the Gemara says, well, honami tanina. We learned this already. Misha ama b'shas misasa. If somebody says at the time that he died, yesh li banim, I have children, and therefore his wife is patur from yibam, neman. Yesh li achim, I have brothers. Now that's news. As far as the wife knew, he didn't have any brothers. Now, he says that he has brothers. That would hold her back from getting married, because if he has brothers and he doesn't have children, she would need yibam. But for that, einoi nema. So the Gemara says, so we already learned that he's believed to say that he has a son. So the Gemara says, well, over there, it's less of a chiddush. Because hasam deloy murzuk lan ba'ach. There, when he identified him as a son, there was no knowledge of a brother. So he's not going against any chazaka. Because anyway, there's no yibam because there's no brother. Here it says, even though there was a brother, so there was a presumption of needing yibam, he's believed to say, this is my son, and no yibam is needed. So the Gemara says, can you tell me why is the father believed to exempt his wife from yibam? Why is he believed to say, this is my son? You know why? Because since if he said, I divorced my wife, he's believed, so why would he have to lie? He could just say, I divorced my wife, and therefore she's parted from yibam. So the Gemara says, yeah, but there is no Mishnah, there is no Brisa that says that a husband is believed to say, I divorced my wife. So Amar Rabbi Yossi Mori Avram, by the master of Avram, Toli Tanya, we are explaining the reason of the brisa that says he's believed to say, this is my son, b'deloi Tanya, with something that was never taught in a brisa, that he's believed to say that he divorced his wife. If anything was said, it was said as follows. Why do we say that if he says, this is my son, he's believed? Since why would he have to lie? If he wanted to exempt his wife from Yibam, he could just divorce her now. Amar of Yosef, Hashta da Amrit Amrinan Hayel. Now that we say Hayel, that he's believable because he could divorce her now. Baal Sha'amar Garashti es Ishti, a husband that says, I divorced my wife, Neman. Why? Since he could divorce her now. Hayel biyada legarsha. He also Reb Yitzchak bar Yosef, when Reb Yitzchak bar Yosef arrived, Amar Reb Yochanan said, Baal Sha'amar Garashti es Ishti, a husband that says, I divorced my wife, Einoi Neman. So Menafech Rav Sheshes biyadei, Rav Sheshes waved with his hand, Azalei Hayel Rav Yosef. The Hayel, the Svara, that he's believed to say, I divorced my wife since he could divorce her now, we see that we don't say that. Inni, is that so? But we learned faket from Rabbi Yochanan. Vam Rab Chia Ba'avan Am Rabbi Yochanan Baal Shama Garashti es Ishti Neman. If a husband says, I divorced my wife, he's believed. So you see, we say he's believed since he could divorce her now. So the Gemara says, Lei Kash, there's no difficulty. Kan lemafreya, kan lahaba. When he says, I divorced my wife, we don't give believability for anything retroactive. So therefore, if witnesses come and say that a month ago the wife committed adultery, we don't believe the husband to say, I divorced my wife to save her life, to save her from execution, because the hayil only works mikano la'aba, that he could say, I divorced her because I could divorce her now, but I could divorce her now doesn't help for a month ago. So like kasha, kan lemafrei, it doesn't work retroactively, kan lahaba, it works from now on. So here the Gemara says, interestingly, Ibayilhu, Amal lemafreya, if he says, I divorced my wife a month ago, we can't believe him for a month ago, because there's no hayil. He can't divorce her a month ago. But do we believe him that he's divorced now? Mao, lehemune l'haba, can we believe it to the extent that he divorced her from now on? Mi palginon dibura, do we split his words? We can't believe him retroactively, but we can believe him from now. Oh, lo palginon dibura, we can't take part of his words. Since he has no credibility to say he divorced her a month ago, so she's not divorced now either. So the Gemara says, Rav Mori v'Rav Zvid, it's a machlokes, Rav Mori and Rav Zvid, Chad Amar Palginon, one say we split a person's words, v'Chad Amar Loi Palginon. So the Gemara says, well, Ma'ishnama de Rava. The Amar Rava, Ish Pliny Ba'al Ishti, if a man says that Chatzkel committed adultery on my wife, so hu va'achar mitztarfin lahorgai. If a man said that Chatzkel divorced his wife, and there was Yisrael was also a witness, so we'll kill with the testimony Chatzkel. Hu va'achar mitztarfin lahorgai. His testimony together with Yisrael is enough to execute the man who committed adultery. It's enough to execute Chatzkel. Lahargai, to execute him, but v'loi laharga, but not to execute her, because one of the witnesses is her husband, and he can't give testimony about his wife. So you see, we split his words. We're palginon dibura. We accept his testimony when it pertains to the paramar, the adulterer, Chatzkel, but we don't accept it when it pertains to the wife. So we split his words. So the Gemara says that's different, because there it's two bodies. So we could believe him about Chatzkel and not believe him about the wife. Betray Gufei Palginan. Bechad Gufa, but when it pertains to one body, there, according to one of the Shitas, Loi Palginan. We don't split his words. Okay, we'll stop over here now, Rabbi Isai.